Hello, what's up, everybody? It is the Dark Conservatarian coming to you as just Zach right now. As you can see, just plain old Zach. And right now, I am here with a good old friend of ours who has come back, at least for right now, to talk about Onward for a spoiler review. That being Loudmouth Reviews. Say hello, Loudmouth.
Hello, everyone. A little sick, but I'm getting through.
For all the Christian followers who might be listening right now, I implore that you pray for the dude and pray for like a speedy recovery. And here as well.
I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'll get through it. Fuck the Chinese Communist Party.
Indeed. And here with us, I also have the incredible Aspie and Lonely Wolf. Say hi, you guys.
Hello, and also like the second what Loudmouth said, fuck the Corona commies.
Yes. fuck the commies.
Corona commies.
So I second the thoughts and prayers because I'm a reformed, I guess Christian. Oh, not really Christian, Catholic. Yeah, I'm kind of rediscovered my roots or whatever. So it's like so obviously my thoughts and prayers.
I never really care for the differentiation between Christians and Catholics, but it's whatever. So yes, this is a review of Pixar's most recent release, Onward, and me and Loudmouth are the primary ones who have actually seen the movie. Aspie and Lonely Wolf, they don't really care so much for spoilers, but for anybody who is watching right now who has not seen Pixar's Onward and really doesn't want it spoiled for themselves, now's your chance to turn away from this live stream. Still not gone? Okay, so here we get into it. The reason why I say just giving out that warning right now rather than later is because I do not know if we can go on much longer into non-spoiler territory. Go into this for long into this reviewing this movie without revealing spoilers. But yeah, this is a good movie. I'd say definitely a solid 7, maybe even 8 out of 10. What do you think, Loudmouth?
I gave it a 9 out of 10. I thought it was, I call it, when it came out, I said it was the best animated movie I've seen since Coco.
And, yeah, I'd probably go that high as well. Although, would you say that it's better than some of the... Okay. As far as comparing it to, like, the other greats of Pixar, like Toy Story 2 and 3, for that matter.
In and Out.
Incredibles... You mean Inside Out?
Inside Out, yeah.
Yeah, and Inside Out. Like,
yeah, I wouldn't place it as high as Up or Inside Out or the first The Incredibles. No, but I still did really like the film. It was definitely it definitely was a worthy entry into the Pixar canon for sure.
By the way, Loudmouth, I want to ask you about something because usually I've always heard like the saying that sequels usually ruin good films. Did The Incredibles 2 ruin the original Incredibles?
No, it did not ruin the original Incredibles. It was still a damn good movie, but it was not as strong as the original.
Yeah, you could just even though I can't really put my words on that, you could feel that there was sort of a difference in the films. Like for some reason
there really was. Like I could feel like the feminism. I don't know. I'm probably just being a little bit.
I didn't see much in that film. Actually, it just lacks some of the really best moments. Like the "Where's My Super Suit" scene in the first Incredibles is probably one of the funniest scenes in any movie.
And they did not have anything like that in Incredibles 2.
Well, there was kind of a callback, but it wasn't quite as funny. You hear his wife saying, Where are you going ASAP, baby? Back here ASAP.
Right.
Yeah, I like both times you don't see her. It's kind of funny.
There are some areas that I can say that the Incredibles 2 was better than Incredibles 1 but the Incredibles 1, the animation, and I'd say the action overall, although I don't know, it's probably a pick and choose, like, agree to disagree on which one is better in the action department. But when it comes to the soundtrack, though, I don't think the second one had quite the same soundtrack as the first one. Whereas the first one had this jazzy sort of spy soundtrack.
Right.
And it also had like a general spy feel to it, almost like a Mission Impossible kind of aura to it. The first one, anyways. But the second one did not have that sort of spy film aura, you know?
See what I was expecting for them to like age up the kids or have it set years later, but the director's reasoning why he didn't was kind of interesting. He said he basically functioned the family's superpowers among the roles of all of them in a nuclear family. Bob, of course, is super strong because the husband has to be like really strong and the patriarch of the family. Helen has stretchy powers because housewife is pulled in each and every direction. All right. Violet turns herself invisible because teenage girls are kind of become a bit recluse. Dash has super speed because 10-year-old boys are just bundles of energy that want to run all over the place. And Jack's powers are weird and mysterious because a baby is just kind of all weird mysterious potential. You don't know much about what they're going to be. So each of the powers of the characters.
Sorry about that. I popped out just out of nowhere.
Right.
Was meant to represent their age groups, and thus because of that, he didn't really know how to tell a story with these characters as different ages. Like Dash as an adult wasn't really interesting for him.
Right.
I see.
I can understand that they also want to kind of expound on those little assets in the second one, because on the first one, quite honestly, I don't, looking back, I don't think there was enough this exploring into the characters of Dash and Violet in the first one as compared to the second one. The second one had a little bit more time for the kids to shine, from what I could see.
Well, I always like the way they portrayed. They're obviously not portrayed as angels because real kids aren't, but they're still ultimately good kids who come together in the end.
Right. And I really liked how that Incredibles 2 was in some ways was kind of a commentary on the whole Mr. Mom culture that had been rising in the United States by having the Mr. Incredible be the stay-at-home Mr. Mom, sort of dad, and it was the wife who had to go off and do the work.
Due to Jack's powers being very hard to control, clearly gets to him. He has trouble sleeping because his kid is zapping itself out of the
turning into a monster for cookies.
Yeah. Which, of course, dealing with a kid with that kind of array of powers would be a lot of stress to try to manage,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're reminding me of like Baby Yoda and his and Mando. It's kind of like there's a certain Mr. Mum going on in that dynamic.
Yeah, except I don't think it's quite the same as a Mandalorian comparing him to Mr. Incredible in the second Incredibles. But anyway, getting sort of off of that.
One of the best jokes in the second one is kind of the shot it makes of Common Core. Why they changed math? Math is math.
You're right. They did kind of take a shot up at Common Core at first there, but it seemed like eventually Mr. Incredible kind of buckled to Common Core.
Right, but he's just being a good dad. He's trying to get his kid through the class,
Right. I don't know. I just felt like that was sort of that was kind of weak on Mr. Incredible's part at that point.
I actually always like the character of Bob. You see his flaws as a person as well. Like you can tell that deep down he's kind of jealous that his wife is getting the spotlight because he craves it himself. Earlier in the movie, but at the same time he doesn't give in to his worst instincts, and he still ultimately decides to be supportive.
Right. Although I guess what I would have thought would have been a better route to take with the characters if he ended up homeschooling the kids or taking them to some other school that did not, teach Common Core. Because it almost seemed the way that they took his reaction to Common Core throughout the entire movie. His original reaction was fine, but his overall reaction going towards the end of the movie with Common Core, it seemed almost kind of pro Common Core, sort of.
Yeah, and what was it? Another scene I really liked when Helen's under the mind control, and at first she attacks Bob, and of course with Bob's super strength, he's pretty much indestructible. She couldn't physically overpower him, so what does she do? She kisses him, and then she takes advantage of him that way. Kind of a bit of commentary there, right, on a woman's sexuality. She can't. All right, they have kind of more power over us in that way with their sexuality, even if they physically can't overcome us. I thought that was a very interesting scene.
This is my turn to zip mode because I'm just going to zip it because otherwise I'm just going to go on about math.
Oh,
math is math. Math is math.
Right, because
one of my favorite lines in that movie.
Yeah.
Yep. Math is math. The biggest flaw in Incredibles 2 as compared to Incredibles 1 is the villain. Like, Syndrome was very memorable, very megalomaniacal, and actually fun to watch and listen to sort of villain. Whereas the second one, they did not have near that same sort of thing going with who ended up being the main villain in that movie. But anyway, sort of getting off of those Pixar films and getting on to what the title movie is, Onward. I mean, speaking of villains, I kind of like the idea that there is no technical villain in Onward. I mean, I guess you could consider the rock dragon that appears at the end of the movie sort of a villain. But throughout the entire movie, there's no real villain. There's just natural consequences of, people's environments shaping them to these sorts of personalities that isn't necessarily malicious or villainous, but it just, turns them into somewhat of an asshole in the same way that the biker gangs are, or turns them kind of, I don't know, sort of insecure, kind of jealous of having an opportunity ripped away from them. With Colt Bronco, when he is dating, what's the name of the mom, Loudmouth?
I forgot, Mrs. Lightfoot. I just remember their mom. I can look it up. Hold on. Laura Lightfoot is the character's name.
Laurel. I think it was actually Laurel, like with an L at the end. But yeah,
right.
Laurel Lightfoot. He's not necessarily a villain, but at the end, or going towards the middle-ish, end-ish sort of part of where that he catches up with the boys, he isn't necessarily being a bad guy in that sort of way. He just wants to, I guess, sort of rescue the kids out of trouble. But at the same time, he's also jealous and insecure about the possibility of them two resurrecting their original dad, in which he would take away.
I never really got that, because of course they only were able to bring their dad back for 24 hours at most.
But Colt didn't know that.
Maybe, but if that was his motive, that would actually make him a kind of villainous character. But I never really thought that was. I just kind of saw that he saw these as irresponsible teenagers who he was taking in and rescuing from a bad situation they had got themselves in.
By the way that they had, the looks that they had animated on his face throughout that scene of him trying to catch up with the boys, I was able to see it in his face that he was overhearing about what they were attempting to do. He was getting kind of insecure about the idea of them resurrecting his plausible girlfriend's dead husband. From the
I never really saw that.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's just me, but I did not necessarily see it as villainous per se. I mean, yeah, it is a big time dick move overall.
Well, that would be incredibly selfish behavior, so it would be kind of borderline villainous.
It's selfish, but it's almost a natural kind of selfishness that you would see from an average Joe, as opposed to an actual villain who wants to take over a huge swath of land, of an entire jurisdiction of people, or destroy an entire population or whatever.
Well, the villainy doesn't need to be on any grand scale. Sometimes villainy can just be being a selfish, manipulative individual.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
But I never really got that from that character.
Can I just check that I'm looking at the right film? So it looks like there's two. They're kind of bluish characters. Like they got blue hair, and one of them has like a biker vest kind of thing. So Tom Holland, Octavia Spencer.
They're both these like blue elvish characters.
Oh, okay. Octavia Spencer. I really like her.
probably we're gonna get no bullshit responding to this video that we just want to attack a blue person.
Oh yes, yeah. Actually, I want to watch this now.
Oldie but a goodie.
No. That was an epic stream. I still, even now to this day, go looking back at the highlights of that stream. It was good.
Really, you just want to attack a white person?
And by the way, my highlight clip of that stream is standing at over 700 views as we speak right now.
Nice.
Although it did not do as good as my highlight reel of me responding to Black Critic Guy on Cuties.
But yeah, it's still a great stream. But
getting off of that though.
Well, in terms of like the politics of this movie, the kind of the most quote unquote controversial thing was that it's the first Disney released animated movie that where one of the characters, even if it's a very minor character, is overtly gay. There was the female Cyclops who mentions she has a girlfriend.
Okay, the female Cyclops. You said the female Cyclops cop who mentioned she has a girlfriend?
When they're stopped and they're like in that kind of that where they simulate their mom's boyfriend, but they can't lie, otherwise the illusion breaks down.
Right. Okay. I want to break this down for a bit. That cop was played by a black actress, and by self-explanatoriness, of course, it was a female, and she's freaking tall, and she's a lesbian. I see a lot of parallels to Tree of Logic. Did somebody get the idea of that character from Tree of Logic? I mean, even Tree of Logic was formerly a cop.
I don't know, but yeah, but that actually got the movie banned in some Middle Eastern countries. I'm not even kidding, just because of that little line.
Yeah, thinking back on that, I just thought that was kind of uncanny, the comparisons you could make between that character and Tree of Logic.
But of course, when the movie was released in Russia and China, that little bit's edited out or differently dubbed. So it's brief enough that they can get the praise from domestic media over it. All right, we're so woke, we're so progressive, we have lots of representation, but we're going to edit you out of the release in China because we want that China money.
Get a spine. Just stand on your own laurels or whatever.
You wouldn't be suggesting that movie studios are spineless cowards who preach morals in their own country while selling out to the authoritarian dictatorships in China and Russia, are you?
No, totally not, Loudmouth.
Yeah, they wouldn't do things. They totally have real principles.
Yeah, right. I cannot listen. I just cannot listen to any of these Hollywood people virtue signal and lecture everyone about. I can't, like, what the deals they made with China to sell out their own progressive ideals. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna sit here and listen to your bullshit. Like, if you had any sort of principles or whatever, you don't care about these issues. You're just using it cynically to make money.
Yeah, South Park excoriated them for that in that one episode. They have it portrays Mickey Mouse as this totalitarian leader. He's got this lineup of Disney characters like, who here thought it was okay to badmouth the Chinese government? And then Thor's like, well, it is true, sir. The Chinese do seem to exploit their own people with forced labor and deny people basic rights. Shut the fuck up, Thor! You're here to flex and not think, you fucking bitch!
A classic, real classic.
And this isn't nearly the worst example. The worst example was the Mulan remake, which probably the most disgraceful thing the Walt Disney Studio has ever done in their entire history. They actually credit the Xinjiang Security Board for helping them with the movie and thank them in the credits. The same Xinjiang Security Board that's engaged in a mass genocide today.
The Uyghur Muslims.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. That is a massive area, because you hear these virtue signaling leftists talk about the Nazis and say, "Oh, if we were around back then, we would have stood up, we would have done something." No, you fucking wouldn't have, because it's happening in China now, and none of you give a shit.
And not only that, you're also directly paying money into that sort of system.
Right.
By the way, Brandon, hello. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hey. Sorry about that. I was working on my novel. How are you guys doing?
Oh no, it's all good,
Well,
dude.
we were talking about Onward, but also talking about the hypocrisy of the Walt Disney Corporation. So, which I guess both are subjects.
Yeah,
All right, have you seen Onward, Brandon?
I have. I have not.
Do you care for spoilers?
No, I don't care.
All right. Yeah, I do not know why it is that I mistakenly misremembered that it was the Manticore who was the self-proclaimed lesbian in
No,
Onward.
it was not the Manticore.
I thought that there might have been like a brief mention from her, in spite of being like one of the more main characters. Well, not the main character, but one of the more spotlight.
No, it was a barely seen character who only has like 5 minutes of screen time, but Disney can still put that in the movie and have all the woke media write tons of articles praising them for it and patting them on the back.
Right, and which
personally, I didn't give a shit. I just heard that. I'm like, I definitely don't think it's anywhere overtly political to have a gay character in a movie.
Oh, neither do I. Although I do sort of incorporate some gay characters in my own comic project as sort of a vehicle to tell the story of the world that they live in that is so authoritarian in ways that both sides of the political aisle would hate. Like on the one hand, they ban guns, but on the other hand, they also ban gays. You know. But I'll just send you like
pretty much every authoritarian regime throughout history. Then.
Right.
that's how they've all been. But
I'll have to show you a link you a Google Drive of my comic project.
Well,
there.
It also got me annoyed at some other members of the right when it because of that, and when it flopped at the box office, and it flopped at the box office entirely because of the virus. Cutting off its stream, not because of anything else. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, duh, get woke, go broke," and no, Onward is not a woke movie. It is not a left-wing movie whatsoever. Quite the opposite, actually. The movie is a celebration of traditional families. It has a great love and appreciation of fathers, and it's all about when you lose a father or lose any family member, the hole that it leaves in a family.
All the dudes are pretty well dignified in the movie. And I would say that even Colt Bronco, who is probably arguably the least dignified character in the entire movie, still has some kind of dignity to him, even if he had like all of his slapstick foolish moments throughout the movie, you know?
So yeah, Onward is not a woke movie. Onward is actually a movie that is very much appreciates traditional family values.
But it still has some strong female characters to sort of throw a cookie at you.
Well, nothing wrong with a strong female character.
Yeah,
there's nothing not cringe.
Yeah, that's the no bullshit version of feminism. Okay, that's the where it has a woman in a movie. It's SJW propaganda.
You had two women that were fighting off the rock dragon. Obvious SJW feminism being played right here in Pixar.
Yeah, we're gonna see probably around Christmas. We'll see a video from him SJW moments in Die Hard, because John McClane was trying to save his wife like some kind of loser blue pill beta cuck.
Hey, by the way, did anybody has anybody seen the new Animaniacs that they just came out with? By the way,
I actually did see the first 5 episodes, and there were a couple moments I liked, but I was mostly disappointed with it.
It went woke, didn't it? When I saw the first episode and I saw the song is it Wacko? The oldest one did about him, when he mentioned the Russians voting and that is the really damn shame, because although the original Animaniacs definitely had political humor, it wasn't like advocating on behalf of any controversial political issues. And it was just trying to poke fun at the world around us. This one absolutely was. Like, there was one episode which was
an incredibly blatant gun control metaphor called bun control, where these like rabbits that are reproducing out of control. Throughout them, and there's this one guy who's hoarding all these rabbits, and the Warners eventually get him to like surrender them by evoking Australia, and all these dingoes show up and have a rabbit buyback program. So basically, it was very obvious that they were. It was all a political allegory, saying that America should adopt Australia-style gun control.
It's quite an obvious political allegory, but at the same time, it's so cheesy and cartoony just by the way that you're describing it, Loudmouth. I cannot help but laugh at it.
Yeah,
there were a couple jokes that were funny in the reboot, and I haven't seen the whole thing, but there was a Pinky and the Brain sketch that really made me laugh, where he tells his plan to Pinky over a cell phone and then gets conked in the head, so he loses his memory. Okay, so in order to get the plan back, he says, "Excellent. If I told you over the cell phone, then the NSA has recordings of it." so I'm not kidding. The Pinky and the Brain actually hire an animated version of Edward Snowden to break into the NSA to get the recording to find his plan. And there's actually at the end, when they get the plan back, there's a really clever twist that I won't spoil. But actually, I'm like, okay, that's actually pretty clever and funny.
Yeah, so, I mean, he still managed to keep the show somewhat good. I mean, of course, who's the name of the Steven Spielberg? I mean, Steven Spielberg is, of course, a woke guy. This is a guy who supports his daughter, taking on pornography. But anyway, he
that's not necessarily woke.
Well, another thing I really disliked is the character of Hello Nurse.
We're not taking on. I mean, actually becoming
wait,
going into the porn industry.
Guys, one at a time.
Sorry.
Well, we'll let you say what you're about to say, Loudmouth. But what was it you wanted to say very quickly, Aspie? To me,
I was going to say, I think you misunderstood. His daughter did not go after pornography, as if, I should have said that she's going into it, as in she's becoming an actor, and she's becoming like a sex worker, and her father is somewhat supportive of it.
Well, it's somewhat questionable as to why that he would be supportive of it, but I do not think supporting your daughter going into pornography is inherently woke or SJW sort of thing. But
it does seem
but I was going to
depraved.
say another big thing in the Animaniacs reboot is the character of Hello Nurse is gone, and that really pisses me off because the gags involving that character were some of the best moments in the original show. Like that's a meme that survives every time. I posted that under if I'm mutual friends on Facebook with an attractive woman, I'll often post that meme of the Warners going, "Hello, nurse."
Yeah, all right, that's like taking
it's great.
That's like taking Jessica Rabbit out of Roger Rabbit.
It is. That's exactly what that is. Yeah. And some of the most dirty jokes involved her. There was one where they're trying to teach the manners, and now go up to Miss Nurse and say, "Hello, how do you do?" And Yakko goes up to her and says, "How do you do?" That thing with your mouth.
Oh, I don't get what's so
dirty jokes in that show.
I don't get that joke,
but they were there.
That thing with "How do you do?" That thing with your mouth.
Yes, they actually had an oral sex joke.
No. Yeah, I mean, I was asking Aspie. Aspie, you seriously did not get that analogy right there?
Oh, I didn't want. I was like, they would. I didn't want to believe that they would have an oral sex joke in a children's show, but apparently
they did. And that's not even the worst one. The worst one was the fingerprints joke. My God.
Yeah, and Dot's like, I don't think so. And Dot's like 6 years old, and that just makes it even worse. Well, proverbially,
I don't think she was meant to be 6 years old. I think they actually mentioned they were like 50-something years old, but they're immortal.
Yeah, they're drawings, so they're completely
they don't really age. But she's like, I found prints. She's holding the fingerprints, and because like, no, fingerprints. She looks at him and says, I don't think so.
And throws him out the window. Yeah.
Can I just mention one particular film? Because it was sort of, at first, before I watched it, I thought it was going to be one of those kind of woke type films because they recast they said it in America and they recast the main protagonist as as black. That was like the Witches remake, but it was like I watched it and I was thinking this actually makes sense. Like I don't think it's like, given the context of a boy who's been who's lost his parents or whatever, and then it's kind of like the tenderness and comfort of like the that southern woman who's like baking cornbread and biscuits and gravy and like all that other stuff, and saying trying to encourage the little boy to eat, and then he eats his first piece of cornbread and it's like he can feel like tenderness of that. It's like I actually enjoyed it a lot. It was like it made a lot of sense. Witches, the remake.
Okay, never heard of that.
Anne Hathaway. It was
I
a
didn't
real
see the point of remaking it. There was already a version of that movie from 1990.
Yeah, I preferred Angelica Houston as a Grand High Witch. Like I like the grandmother and the grandson and the mice. Like they were done very well. Like I think they were better than in the original. But then the Grand High Witch, that was Angelica Houston. She played that well. But I think Anne Hathaway, I think it was a little bit bombastic. It was a bit over the place.
Right. One thing that I do want to say, like, sort of again back onto Onward. One thing that I will say that I was kind of on edge in regards of what I thought would have been kind of a downside of the movie was the Manticore. When they got to showing the Manticore at the restaurant bar, the tavern, like when they first introduced her, it was fine. But the way that they had like transitioned from her going from this tired old waitress or whatever that is busy with running her tavern, and then they just decided that she would go all crazy and just it just feels like whiplash of how quickly that they made her transition from the waitress to being a warrior again. But then they kind of later explained it that she was basically just, I don't know, had her PTSD or something triggered to where that it sort of induced that, which that maybe
it could be a moment where someone's like,
yes,
where someone's like been doing their job like every day for several years and they've just found it tedious, and then just one day he just snaps. It's I kind of saw it like that.
I mean, at first I was kind of on edge. I was thinking to myself, okay, this is too quick. But then when she like cools down for a moment and is getting interviewed by the cops, I was thinking to myself, okay, she just had a crazy episode right there. They're still going to take it somewhat slow, her trying to get back into her warrior state. Like throughout a good portion of the movie, she would not fly for one particular example. It's not until like the end of when that she would fully get encouraged back into getting taking up that warrior's mantle by Laurel Lightfoot, And speaking of political analogies that we were kind of a little bit earlier in regards of, supposed wokeness or SJW-ness that the no bullshits of the world will try to pull out of this movie. I don't know, what do you think of this opinion, Loudmouth? Because when I look at the character Barley, the older brother of these two in the movie Onward, I look at him as almost sort of somewhat of a conservative allegory. I mean, on the one hand, yeah, he is like protesting for stuff to not get destroyed by construction crews and whatnot, which the Hollywood trope is the more leftist, liberal types that go doing that kind of, protesting. But on the other hand, he seems to have a little bit more of a traditional sort of motive to him. A traditionalist sort of belief and motive, in that he thinks that magic is like this, I don't know what word that you would put to it. This all-inspiring sort of thing, in the same way that conservatives would hold to American traditional values.
Yeah, I definitely saw that with the character. That's kind of what made the character unlikable, even though he also has he's overconfident, he's young, and he gets himself into trouble by generally jumping headfirst into things without thinking. That's kind of a character flaw in him. That's why Ian refers to him as a screw up.
You didn't like him at first?
Huh?
You said you did not like him at first?
No, I liked the character. I'm saying, but he was flawed in that way. that's what makes him an interesting character. He's passionate about what he believes. Yeah, he's a very passionate character, but also kind of headstrong and jumps into things without thinking.
Right. As it's sort of later explained in the movie, is that the one bad memory that he had of his dad, not being able to go into the hospital room to say goodbye to him before he died, and he resolves from there on to never be afraid again, to always be brave. He kind of overcompensates to where that braveness sort of gives him a sort of stupid cockiness in which he gets a little bit ahead of himself. And
exactly, yes.
Yeah. I mean, and to sort of balance it out, you got Ian Lightfoot, the person who's a little bit more competent in his strategizing and planning out of certain events, how we're going to tackle issues. What are you saying?
Right.
I thought you was about to say
something. I read about this movie in the extras on the Blu-ray that was I found very interesting was the movie was very much a personal story about for the director who lost his father at a young age and kind of had a special bond with his brother. So and I felt that while watching this, that this was a very personal story in a fantasy setting.
Yeah. That's
kind of why I thought this movie really resonated for me in a way very few recent Disney movies have.
Right. When I first saw the trailers, I did not know anything about what the story was going to be or whatnot. But when I first saw the little teaser trailer, I was thinking to myself, oh, this neat little concept. You have a sort of a fantasy setting, picture Narnia being mixed in with the modern world, put into a Pixar property. I was thinking to myself, okay, you definitely got my ears. That sounds like a neat concept. Where are you going to go with this? And not only is the concept of the world that they built a neat thing, but also the story is very engaging and very emotionally captivating at the same time. So it all panned out in the end.
Yeah, exactly. And Ian's decision to have Barley be the one who gets to talk to their dad, and then him justifying that because that it was Barley who really needed that moment more than he did, even though he never met his father. I think it showed at the end that he was a baby when his dad died, so thus he was too young to form any memories of him, whereas Barley was a couple years older and had some memories of his dad. But because Barley kind of had felt like his last moments with his dad were incomplete, that he really needed that moment more. Because I've never had an Ian saying, "No, I never had a dad, but I've had you." That it just all. I can really imagine any family who's lost a dad early in life, anyone who's grown up without a dad, having that really resonate with them if the rest of their family really supported them through it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'm the oldest in my family as far as siblings go, and plus I've always had my dad raising me throughout my life, so I cannot quite resonate to the same story, but I definitely can understand it. You having to have your older brother be filling in that sort of role model kind of position as because your dad is dead or away or something like that,
Yeah, he had that checklist of all the things he wanted to do with his dad, and he realized he's done those things with his brother.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah,
I mean that really is.
That's why I say this movie is very much a celebration of traditional families.
Mm-hmm.
You see you kind of do. It's about these two boys dealing with kind of the hole left in them from their father's passing. You call it a missing something from that.
You call it a celebration of traditional families. Well, I don't know. I would look at it as more of an overcoming of losing of that traditional family. The dad is lost, so
yeah, he's lost, but at the same time, it really shows how important he was. You can see that, Ian never having known his dad, it leaves a hole in him that he's trying throughout this whole movie to overcome. He kind of realizes that it was there. I guess it's kind of similar to the Nightmare Before Christmas, his arc, Jack Skellington's arc, where he throughout it tries to find a new obsession, a new thing to get himself out of a rut, but what he really needed was right in front of him all along, but he didn't see it, kind of deal.
What was it that he found out they needed all along, Jack?
The romance he develops at the end with someone who was around him and who he overlooked. He realized that developing a romance with her was what he needed.
Okay.
So really,
I got you.
Instead of searching outside for something external, what he really needed was right in front of him all along. Kind of that was Jack Skellington's arc, and it's kind of Ian's arc is a bit similar here.
Right. I couldn't quite remember Nightmare Before Christmas, even though that I've watched it repeated times to where it's gotten old for me.
That movie scared the crap out of me.
Boys and girls of every age, wouldn't you like to see something strange? I love that movie.
Yeah. By the way, I'd like to also say that the one movie that was surprisingly very scary was the Nightmare, but what was that? Not Nightmare Before. I'm trying to remember the name. It was Scrooge. A Christmas Carol, the one with Jim Carrey in it, the cartoon version. That one surprisingly spooked
the
me
live
quite a
motion
few
capture.
times. Yeah, the one with Jim Carrey.
Having the Ghost of Christmas Present devolve into a grimacing laughing skull was a bit much. Yeah.
It was a bit much, yeah.
Right.
It's like one of those weird movies, which is just kind of in the middle, where it's for kids, but it's not really for kids. It's also for adults. It's kind of in that sort of weird, sort of sort of ambiguous sort. It's kind of like
adapting Charles Dickens' novel. It's a mostly faithful adaptation of the book, but it's also got some kind of dumb flourishes, I guess, because they figure since it's an animated movie, we can do all these weird things we should, when you probably shouldn't, just because you can.
You know which Christmas Carol is the one that I've watched repeated times? Was the Patrick Stewart version.
I'm a bigger fan of the George C. Scott version.
Which one's the George C. Scott version?
The one with George C. Scott is Scrooge from the 80s.
I see. I think my mother was watching that one day, and it was kind of I kind of think
George C. Scott's a great actor. We're gonna grab him by the nose and kick him in the ass.
It's also it kind of reminds me ambiguity. You always have those movies which are not really children's movies, but they're also not fully adult movies, kind of like Fantastic Mr. Fox, to where it's just kind of stuck in between in that sort of area of not really being a children's movie. You think Onward is a pure children's movie, or do you think it's something that adults?
I think I don't think there's any age group that can't enjoy Onward. I think it's a movie for everyone.
Yeah, you know what?
I'll watch it.
You know what? This is a thing. Okay, I can't remember which movie reviewer that it was that I listened to make this commentary. Actually, it might have been Saber Spark, or no, not Saber Spark. Shea Furlow's production. Shea Furlow's production is frustrated at anybody like putting animation as a sort of genre. It's not a singular genre because there are many different genres that can be, taken in animation sort of style. There is sci-fi animation, like with Titan After Earth, for example. And then there is fantastical animation in the same way of, Pete's Dragon, for example. And then love stories like the numerous ones that Disney has made and so on and so forth. Like, really, animation can be enjoyed by all age groups. I mean, but it still seems like our culture is, for the most part, still stuck in this mindset that animated and CG animated, like either cartoon animated or CG animated, like Onward, is for kids. Those types of movies are for kids.
But did any of them ever watch Sausage Party?
Right.
That's an animated movie that is not for kids.
The last 10 minutes of that movie scarred me for life.
That movie is fucked up.
I never watched Sausage Party. I don't have any intention to.
I actually recommend it. It's fucked up as hell and demented, but and don't show it to kids. But it is actually funny, and there is some like intelligent commentary in it.
Right now, Fritz the cat's like, "Am I a joke to you?" But of course, you never heard of that movie before?
Yes, I'm aware. I've heard of Fritz the cat. He's X-rated and animated.
X-rated animated film.
X-rated and animated was the tagline.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it was in the It was made in the 70s, so X-rated back.
1970, 50 years ago, was the first X-rated animated movie.
Fritz
Yeah.
the Cat, I think. Okay, for a second there, I was thinking of the movie Feladay, but no, that was a different one. Fritz the Cat.
Yeah, it was made by Ralph Bashki, the same guy who made the first movie adaptation of Lord of the Rings.
Wait. Ralph Bashki made Feladay or made Fritz the Cat?
Fritz the Cat.
Feladay was made in German.
And Lord of the Rings a few years later.
Right.
Which 23 years before Jackson released his more popular live action version, he released an animated adaptation of Lord of the Rings, which actually was not that bad at all. I mean, obviously Jackson's version is better, but
right.
Bashki actually did some things pretty well.
I've seen Ralph Bashki's version of Lord of the Rings. I like the way that they portrayed Aragorn. I mean, aside from the fact that they made him, an Indian, but
yeah, that was kind of odd.
It was kind of odd, but it wasn't a deal breaker. He was at least intimidating, a little bit more so than Viggo Mortensen. Although that's no knock on Viggo Mortensen.
John Hurd really did a great job with the voice acting there, no doubt.
Right, and of course Frodo was a more likable character in Bashki.
Yeah, I actually greatly prefer Frodo in the Bashki version than the Jackson version because it's closer to the book. He's a more commanding character, whereas he feels weak in the Jackson movies. Feels like someone who needs to be like coddled and taken care of.
Yeah, Frodo
more like a commanding adult character in the Bashki movie.
Frodo in the Jackson movies, which I assume are the ones that were made in New Zealand, are the ones that were
shit.
Yeah, the live action ones, yeah.
Yeah, the live action ones were well made, but Frodo did seem like the type of guy who was, was very emotional and did seem to have a sort of weak personality.
Yeah, you don't get that in the book. If you read the book, Frodo was a stronger character.
And he was also 50 years old, most likely.
That's another thing. I found it really odd when I first watched the Jackson movies, the way Sam refers to him, Mr. Frodo, like he's an elder, even though the two actors are like the same age. But in the book, that made more sense. Sam was a lot younger than Frodo.
Wow. Right. And the whole timeline of the book is like, 30 years or something?
Well, no, but there's like after the first couple chapters of the Fellowship of the Ring, there's like a 17-year age gap. When Gandalf leaves, he doesn't return to the Shire till 17 years later. The movie kind of the Bashki version again is faithful to that, and the Jackson version kind of smudges that to being like seems like he was only gone for a few months.
Right.
Yeah, because that it was sort of odd to me because. It kind of seems odd because Gandalf was probably researching what was going on throughout the entire Shire because Bilbo Baggins had found the ring but and that's why he aged so slowly and and still had all of his facilities in order when he was at being 103, but the second he let go of the ring he started aging really fast again.
That wasn't in the book either. The 17-year age gap kind of explains why he's much older later. Where the movie it forgot the 17-year age gap, but still was faithful to Bilbo being a lot older later, which was kind of screwy. It doesn't make a lot of sense because didn't Gollum hyper age real fast, and wouldn't he be long dead then since he's been disconnected from the ring for 60 years?
Yeah, and it's another
thing about
damn.
Loudmouth, shut up. You're making me dislike the Lord of the Rings more.
Keep in mind, Gollum also was once a hobbit.
Yeah, and what's weird is that for some reason the ring didn't affect Bilbo Baggins in the same way that it affected Gollum.
That makes sense because Gollum was alone with it for a lot longer, whereas Bilbo was still around his fellow hobbits, or he wasn't just alone with it for decades.
So he got some outside interaction, but the ring couldn't affect him as much.
Right, isolation. It fucks up the human brain, man.
Yeah, I think what affected that is that all the fellow Shiremen, of Gollum at the time, they had heard about how he had killed his friend Deagle, whereas Bilbo was a little bit more secretive about all of his about his ownership of the ring, and so he did not really get.
He's a relatively wealthy hobbit too.
Yeah, he was wealthy. He did not get in as much trouble and did not get as much disapproval from his fellow hobbits as Gollum did. Whereas Gollum, he did get a whole bunch of disapproval from the other hobbits, calling him murderer and casting him, banishing actually out from the Shire. You know?
Yeah, I mean, social isolation fucks up the human brain. I assume hobbits work the same as humans in that regard.
That doesn't explain introverts. Well, anyway.
Well, it's been proven like prisoners in solitary confinement have like 15 times the suicide rate as prisoners in general population.
Right.
Yeah.
So speaking of fantasy, I really like the design that they've. Okay, like opening up with the movie of Onward, I really like of how that it kind of sort of captured more the essence of Narnia, you know, like all the designs and whatnot. It's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, kind of at a generic fantasy type world. You had elves, orcs, cyclopses, trolls.
It didn't have as many orcs.
Fantasy stories.
It didn't have as many orcs, at least not that I've seen, anyways.
No, there were orcs. I think the main characters are elves.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking that they're more trolls or something. But then again, there's. I'm heading out. I have to make dinner. Okay. See you later, both Lonely Wolf and Aspie, for that matter.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess there is a little bit of a blurred line between orcs and trolls, because some people like to design the orcs to be real massive, like in Warcraft. Those orcs can practically pass as trolls themselves with how big they are, you know?
Yeah.
What other things to sort of, you know, that's like really my most favorite part of the, okay, sorry that we're a little bit all over the place, Loudmouth. I end up being all over the place. Of course, you saw my review of where that I mentioned that my most favorite part of the movie Onward was the end of when they did the old switcheroo between Ian and Barley.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, I really like that too. I thought it was a very touching scene. Like
there's a whole lot of moments that I really liked out of this, but that was the most likable moment of the entire movie. Oh, for some reason I thought I got a notification on my computer, or whatever. What did you think of the action of this movie? Like, that's one of the things that I mentioned in my review.
Well, I mean, it wasn't really an action movie. There's some chase sequences, but it's not really much of an action movie. Like in the way The Incredibles 2 was definitely an animated action movie.
Right. But at the same time, Incredibles, the second Incredibles had a chase scene with Elastigirl being on her motorcycle sort of thing. But the first Incredibles, anyways, which is heralded as the better of the two and one of the best Pixar movies in general. But nonetheless, the first Incredibles did not have any chase sequences, whereas Onward had a kind of a very stylized and very well done action sequence.
Yeah, it did. When Dash is chased by those guys in those hovercrafts.
Okay.
And then at the end, they all get together and fight that giant robot.
Okay.
Joins them. Honey, where's my super suit?
Well, the Omnidroid, they did not really chase the Omnidroid, nor did the Omnidroid chase them. They were just trying to speed through traffic, doing the sort of that commentary on the whole, are we there yet? Sort of family road trip. But
I like that they have kind of a couples fight on where to drive. That was also kind of funny. It felt like a real couples fight. Wait, don't get attraction. They'll take me downtown. That's fun. That's funny because it sounds like a real couples fight.
It really did, and of course there was the chase of when that Dash was being chased by those flying guys. I do not know if I really consider that as a chase scene. I mean, the guy is more running than anything. It's not like he's on some vehicle in a sort of the traditional sense of a car chase scene. Well, yeah. Okay.
And Onward kind of has a couple of those too, but they're not really the main focus of the movie.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, and by that standard, you could say almost the same thing about Incredibles. Like, the main thing was the whole family values and development of the family.
Well, them becoming superheroes, though, was very critical in The Incredibles.
Yeah, fair enough. But even with Onward, like I still like that chase scene of where that the pixies, they got all pissed off to where they wanted to mug them up, you know?
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
And Barley, even when he was shrunk, was able to break a whole chain that was like wrapped around Ian's arm at one point. I was thinking to myself, oh, Macho Man there.
Yeah.
So that's another example of them having the male characters dignified. I mean, Barley isn't a complete chump. He's an idiot, but he's not weak.
Well, he's not really an idiot. Like you said, he just he's overly headstrong. He's impulsive.
Yeah,
he is.
My bad. He's not an idiot. He's definitely very knowledgeable. Like he's
knowledgeable on certain things, but he's impulsive and he makes mistakes because of that.
Like he mentions all the time, his history that he has read up about the Pixies past and the Centaurs past, about how they used to have been a whole lot more capable creatures. Centaurs could run up to 60, 70 miles per hour. Pixies could fly, but then they lost those abilities because of, modern technology. But yeah, he's not so much of an idiot. He's just at some moments incompetent, but he's definitely still strong in that he can like break a chain even when he's that freaking small,
Yeah, he gets shrunk there.
What?
Yeah, he gets shrunk in that scene. Yeah, I remember.
Right.
I actually got the Ultra HD Blu-ray of the movie. It looks really fantastic on the format.
As compared to Disney Plus.
Oh, you'll always get better picture quality from physical disc than streaming, because streaming you're at a much lower bit rate than you are from a physical disc.
I gotcha. I actually watched this on the Disney Plus website on my computer with my friends over Discord. I was screen sharing with them.
Plus, you can. If your internet goes out, you can still watch the movie if you have it on disc. Whereas if your internet goes out you can't access it on a streaming service.
Right. Branch on that.
Yeah, like usually Ultra HD Blu-rays have something like 5 times the bit rate usually of the streaming version. All those extra bits, you get a more stable image. You don't get like as much color banding and macro blocking.
Yeah, the inconvenient thing is the possibility of your disc being like scratched or smudged up and whatnot, and you
have to take care of it.
Gets screwed up.
Right. But as long as you take care of the disc. Plus, here's the thing: you don't own something. If you just own the digital copy of it, you don't own it. If you don't have a physical copy of something, you don't own shit. It's not yours. Whereas if you have a physical copy, it's yours.
Yep. Unfortunately, that'd be the rule of the internet.
Yeah,
you cannot truly own something unless you hold in physical possession it, you know?
Exactly. You don't.
I mean, I was about to mention the example of my videos on YouTube, but then again, I have file copies of them on my computer.
Right, you own those file copies, but you don't own your YouTube channel. Technically, Google owns you. Google owns us all.
Isn't it China that owns us all?
Yeah, and who owns Google? I'm serious though.
China.
Google actually does have an office in Beijing, and they are actually building technology for the Chinese military. I'm not fucking kidding.
Right.
Which is they should not be allowed to do. All right, the U.S. government should stop them.
Yeah, I just do not know of what methodology it would be and the most ethical manner in which it could be prevented.
The most ethical and most effective way to punish the Chinese Communist Party is by punishing American corporations who do business with China. Fine fine them and give out criminal penalties to sleazeball sniveling American executives who profit from China's blood money.
Mm-hmm.
Arrest them and you punish China. You don't need to fight a war with them in order to punish them. We have the means to punish them here. Plus, here's another thing: the Belt and Road initiatives that China is using to buy up large swaths of other countries. Most of those transactions are done in dollars, and because the dollar is the global standard currency. So they need a lot of American dollars to complete a lot of their international operations. That's another area that, if we wanted to, America has the Chinese Communist Party by the balls.
Mm. You know what? One other thing that I want to ask that comes to mind about. Sorry, I keep on taking it back to Onward here, but what do you think of the possibility of sequels or prequels in regard to this property?
It's very unlikely. Very unlikely to happen because the movie made no money, and I know it made no money primarily due to the virus. But I still doubt a sequel would happen, and it didn't really need a sequel, to be honest. It's a fine story on its own.
Fair enough, but I guess there's just a few concepts that I don't know. I guess it's the fact that some of these concepts are not very well explored, are just left up for the mind to explore and left up to ambiguity that makes it so neat. Like, for example, where did their dad go? How does the magic work in resurrecting somebody? You don't know. That's part of the mystery of it.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a heaven in the Onward world? Is that where
there clearly is an afterlife? But and you assume that their dad knew he was with his kids the whole time, but he couldn't really see or hear them.
Right.
Which is probably very frustrating to him. I can imagine like someone doing a joke internet video of doing it from their dad's perspective of doing all Onward, except for his. Wait, am I feeling? Oh wait, am I underwater? Shit.
Oh yeah. Just imagine, yeah. PewDiePie, get on it immediately.
How it should have ended, they did a really funny like alternate ending to The Good Dinosaur that I really liked, where they have his papa show up at the end with Arlo. They're like, yeah, of course I'm okay, Arlo. I just got washed down the river. Did you die when you washed down the river? No, actually, I survived quite a bit. Well, then it follows that because I am a lot bigger and stronger than you are, that I wouldn't die neither. It's just common sense. And then at the very end, and then he's like, Dad, can I put my footprint on the wall? Did you kill that critter that was stealing all our crops? No. Then no.
I've never seen The Good Dinosaur. Is it actually worth watching?
Jokes, damn it. What?
Is it actually worth watching?
All Pixar's movies are worth watching. And The Good Dinosaur is one of Pixar's weak. It is one of Pixar's weaker movies, but it's still a good flick.
Okay. Would you say that it's at least better than Cars 2?
Oh, definitely. It's better than the Cars movies.
Yeah,
Slightly
I don't know.
better than the first Cars, significantly better than Cars 2.
I don't know. I like, to be quite honest, I actually like Cars 3 a whole lot. Like the first Cars, it was all right. Second Cars was absolute trash, but I actually like the third Cars the best out of the trilogy. As surprising as that may sound.
Yeah, it was okay. Certainly, yeah, better than number 2 for sure.
Right. I mean, it paid a whole lot of homage to Doc Hudson. You know, and Doc Hudson was like one of the best characters of the first Cars movie, and so them playing a whole lot of homage to him in the third one was pretty good.
They killed him off because the actor who voiced him, Paul Newman, died between the first and second movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that
more you know.
Yeah, he died. I believe Cars was actually his last thing he acted in before his death.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to.
They didn't want to recast him, so they just had him die in the in universe as well.
Well, that's fairly respectable. Star Wars. Leia.
Like the audio record, the voice of Doc Hudson in the third one. It's like on unused old recordings of Paul Newman that he recorded for the first Cars, but they didn't use.
Neat.
So
that's a little fun fact there.
Yeah, they also had a similar problem when they made Toy Story 4 because Don Rickles, who voiced Mr. Potato Head, he died between the third and fourth movie as well, and he didn't record any of his dialogue for the fourth movie. That's why Mr. Potato Head doesn't say a whole lot in the fourth movie.
Right, and I hear that's the explanation as to why a lot of the side characters did not get any time to shine in the fourth Toy Story. But in spite of whatever the reason might be, legitimate or not, it still shows a bit of a weakness on the fourth installment of Toy Story.
Well, most of the voice actors were back. It was mostly just Don Rickles. But here's the thing, though: they've recast characters before. Slinky Dog was voiced. I forgot his name. The actor who played Ernest in the Ernest movies, in the first two Toy Stories, and he was recast for the third and fourth movie. So
Okay.
it's not. So Pixar isn't totally opposed to recasting characters that were voiced by dead actors. Sometimes, but I guess they didn't want to do it for Don Rickles, so they just avoided that.
Although I think you and I can both agree that the most disrespectful recasting is Ducky, Land Before Time.
Oh yeah, because goddamn, what happened to that kid? Goddamn.
I mean, at least Don Rickles and Paul Newman, or at least by what I'm getting the implications of here, anyways. At least they died by natural causes, whereas Ducky died.
They were old men, you know. They were old dudes. They lived a good life.
Whereas what's her face who voiced Ducky in the original Land Before Time, way
Judith
too
Barton.
young and died in the most terrible way that could possibly be imagined.
Yeah, Judith Barcy was her name.
Judith Barcy.
Yes, murdered by her father.
Don Bluth didn't even want to show up at the premieres because of it.
Yeah. It's really messed up. I was really shocked when I found that out later because I grew up on Ducky. I didn't know that happened to the kid that voiced her.
You know, I told this to some of my own personal friends. I think that it's a big old fat disrespectful middle finger to Don Bluth now that Disney has bought out 20th Century Fox, you know? The company that helped to make Anastasia, which is one of the top 3 most successful movies that Don Bluth had directed, you know?
Bluth, he's still alive, but he hasn't made anything in 20 years.
Well, no, I know that he's still alive, but I just feel that it's kind of just a big middle finger that the fact that
I mean, he was once a Disney animator.
Yeah, I mean, then one of my friends came back at me. He said, "Well, to be fair, he kind of threw up the middle finger over at Disney." And I said,
"Yeah, he did."
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't really matter too much.
Yeah, I guess in the grand scheme of things.
Anastasia was honestly none of Bluth's movies from the '90s are really that good, though. His '80s movies are all really good animated films, but his '90s movies aren't.
Anastasia is more 2000s, though.
No, it came out in '99.
Oh,
or 90,
okay, never mind.
'98.
Well, I just remember that Anastasia, Land Before Time, and American Tail are the 3 highest box grossing movies that he has made.
Probably his best movie is probably also his first movie, The Secret of Nim.
Right. The Secret of Nim is, of course, a cult classic, but it did not turn out a profit.
It turned a profit. It didn't really cost that much.
Okay.
It was only made for $7 million.
All Dogs Go to Heaven, if I recall correctly from the YouTube videos I've watched about it, it did not really strike much of a profit, but it kind of made back its own. It did not turn out a profit in the box office, but when VCR and VHS tapes, being a new invention, and it coming out on that format, VHS tapes, that's how they kind of made back their money on.
How the fuck did that movie get a G rating? The PG rating has been neutered as hell in recent years. My God, All Dogs Go to Heaven. It got a G rating, and that scene where Charlie has this nightmare where he goes to hell is a scene that should have netted the movie a PG rating even in the 80s. God damn.
I cannot quite remember that part. Like, I've seen the original All Dogs Go to Heaven, but I cannot quite remember that.
Yeah, he goes to hell in a scene in the original movie. Because after Annabeth told him after he leaves heaven, you can never come back. He has this vision where he's sent to this giant lake of fire, driven by this skull demon. Then these little bats go up and start biting into Charlie on all sides of his body. I'm like, holy shit, this is for kids, people.
I got one curious question. Now, Don Bluth, a lot of his productions was in cooperation with Steven Spielberg. And I know that like American Tail, for example, and the second one, I don't think Don Bluth was included at all in that production, but it was picked up by Steven Spielberg's animation company, and they made the sequel and I think the next two sequels as well. Was the same thing done with All Dogs Go to Heaven? Was it Steven Spielberg that made the sequel to All Dogs?
I don't believe Spielberg had any involvement in those shitty sequels.
Okay.
Yeah. The sequel's a piece of shit.
All Dogs Go to Heaven 2 and Christmas Carol?
Yeah, they're crap. But the original really should stand on its own. Charlie dies at the end, all right? They should have left him dead.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's meant to be. It's a complete character arc. Charlie, throughout the movie, he's not a likable protagonist. He's actually a complete asshole at numerous times in that movie. It's kind of about him finding his soul and redeeming himself by the end.
Mm-hmm.
And he does so, and he's allowed back into heaven. That was kind of that was his arc. Bringing him back for the dumbass sequel kind of ruins that.
Thinking back on that end scene of where he says goodbye to the girl, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking back on that part, actually.
Yeah, that girl was also voiced by Judith Barcy. That was the last thing she recorded before her death. The movie came out over a year after she was dead.
Okay. I thought The Land Before Time was the last thing she had recorded.
No. Keep in mind, with any animated movie, the voices are typically recorded like 2 years before the movie comes out. That's usually the first thing that's done. Is the voice recording. They animate around it.
Okay.
But no, yes, Judith Barcy did voice Anne-Marie. You can kind of see Don Bluth is actually a devout Mormon, and you kind of can see a Christian allegory in almost all his works.
Right. I mean, definitely with All Dogs Go to Heaven. I mean,
that's probably where it's more blatant.
Literally in the name, heaven. American Tail. How much of a Christian allegory is there in that movie, though?
But I was gonna say in The Land Before Time. I think it's kind of rumored that the Great Valley is actually heaven.
Okay. Well, I was asking about American Tail. I mean,
American Tail. I believe there was something, but I haven't seen that movie in so long.
But I go thinking back and looking back on that movie. The family, the Feifel's family. The older dad, he doesn't just come off as Russian. He almost comes off as sort of a Russian Jew, a Jewish guy from Russia, looking to immigrate over to America.
Right. No cats in America.
Right.
There are no cats in America. Kind of, I guess that was an allegory for how people often thought America would be better than it actually was. often, new immigrants did have to struggle here, just like they did everywhere else.
Right.
And in The Secret of Nim, you can definitely see that with the stone. Courage of the heart is very rare. The stone has a power when it's there.
I got you.
It's a matter of faith. When she first touches the stone, it burns her, but like something compels her to continue holding on to it. And I also believe that The Secret of Nim is the only major animated movie starring a single mother as the main character.
Actually, yeah, I can't think of any myself, but of course, you're a whole lot more versed in your movies than I am.
Right. They mentioned her husband was eaten by the cat.
Right.
So he was dead before the start of the movie. And she, of course, has to move heaven and earth for her kids.
So I was kind of thinking back on this when we briefly touched onto it. Toy Story 4. Man, I could go on a whole rant. Do you want to rant about how bad Toy Story 4 is?
I like Toy Story 4.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I didn't like it I didn't like it a lot. I didn't think it was great, but I enjoyed the movie.
Okay. Like, I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's not absolutely terrible, but here's my thing with it. My flaws I see in it. One, they nerfed Buzz. Two,
they kind of
beloved side characters that we all grew to know and love did not hardly get any time to shine. And excuse me. And three, I did not mind the fact that they made Bo Peep ultimately a strong female wham character, whatever. But my thing is that it wasn't handled right. Like, you know, in the little flashback scene of where it basically takes place about a year, maybe less, after Toy Story 2, of where that she's being taken off by this car or whatever, and she says goodbye to Woody. You know, like, they make her out. It does not seem like at all the same personality that she had in Toy Story 1 and 2. Like,
well, she didn't really have much of a personality in Toy Story 1 and 2.
Not much, but
she wasn't really developed as a character.
Well, fair point, but whenever time that we did see her interact with any character, she was more of an emotional, supportive sort of character. She wasn't this commanding, gung-ho G.I. Jane sort of character like they retconned her to be in the flashback.
She just kind of always seemed to have the hots for Woody and made kind of innuendos with him, which might be awkward because Woody certainly doesn't have a penis.
Yeah. I think
I doubt the manufacturers of him included that.
Right. My thing is, the way that I would have handled it is that when she gets taken off to become a lost toy or whatever, I think the way that I would have handled it is that she starts off as being broke down and almost like crying at the fact that she's being taken off from the people that she loves. And then many years later, she develops through all the pain and all the loneliness and whatnot.
Maybe she kind of saw it, was prepared. She kind of was prepared for it, though. She knew that it was coming. So it was just kind of something she was ready to accept.
She was prepared for it only because of the retcon that Toy Story 4 had made her in the flashback.
I mean, like every toy ultimately knows that their time is short because they're essentially immortal, but their human masters aren't.
Right. Although it's just, I still don't see it in the personality. It still seems like a big old retcon. I mean, then again, it might be because I've been watching a whole lot of Mahler, YouTube movie reviewer, by the way. And
I know Mahler.
What?
I know Mahler is. He's cool.
He did like a few live streams responding to some people that were white knighting for Toy Story 4. And like this one guy in particular, I can't remember what his name is, but he's just some androgynous looking fellow with a fuckboy haircut, British dude. And he's acting like it's a bad thing that there be any bad reviews at all of Toy Story 4, and just overreacting at the fact there'd be even one bad review of it on Rotten Tomatoes. Oh, so Toy Story 4 cannot have its 100% rating. It's an absolutely perfect film.
I wouldn't go that far. I gave it like a 4 out of 5. I thought it was good. I didn't dislike it, but I definitely didn't think it was a perfect film.
4 out of 5. What were all the strong characteristics about the movie that made you want to go that high with it?
I enjoy Woody's character arc in the movie. I thought kind of its message about kind of facing your mortality. I kind of enjoyed it, though it's kind of similar to the message of the previous movie.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, that a toy doesn't need to be to have a human master to be happy. Toys get lost every day.
Like, I don't mind the fact that ultimately, in the end, he does end up going for deciding to split up from the rest of the group to rejoin Bo Peep. I mean, that's the one thing that I'll say that I disagree with Mahler and the rest of his crew on, because they go acting like that's a poor handling of Woody. It could have been done better. That little idea of Woody breaking off from the rest of the group to rejoin Bo Peep, the idea in itself is not inherently a bad idea. It just could have been handled a little
wasn't
bit better.
really wanted by Bonnie, but like he spent the whole movie trying to prevent Forky from throwing himself away. I like that Ben Shapiro once made an analogy when dealing in the Trump campaign that where Trump's handlers were like Woody dealing with Forky trying to throw himself away, like when Trump botched that first debate.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Yes, being one of Trump's handlers is like being Woody trying to prevent Forky from throwing himself away.
But you're referring to the first debate of 2020, right?
Yeah, which he botched completely. He probably would have won if not for that, if he hadn't botched that debate so bad.
Honestly, I thought, okay, he, on the surface, in regards of his mannerisms and whatnot, the personality that he put out right there, he was very rude and brash and just kept on interrupting and just would not shut up.
He did way better in the second debate.
But if I was to if one were to look at the substance, though, I thought overall that Trump had won against Biden on that front. The second one, he was substantive as well and a whole lot more mannerly.
Yeah, he handled himself much better. He did a much better job controlling his temper. Kind of come across like he couldn't. Looked like he hadn't slept in days in the first debate.
But I mean, I just think ultimately that he at least done better in the first debate of this year than he did in the first debate of 2016, at least.
Yeah, but wasn't enough to save him, though. At least doesn't look like it.
Might not be. But what was I going to say? Woody rejoining Bo Peep. I just wish that they would have paid a little bit more homage to some of the past lines of the Toy Story movies. Like, at the end of Toy Story 2, that Woody, he goes saying, besides, I'll always have Buzz Lightyear to keep me company for infinity and beyond. And yet, here at the end of Toy Story 4, he ends up breaking up from him, and they don't even give a mention as to at all throughout that entire movie. What about whatever happened to infinity and beyond? I mean, yeah, they could have just maturely said there is no infinity and beyond or something like that. I mean, the lines obviously could have been a whole lot. It's obviously going to be a whole lot better than what I just said them to be right now. But I just wish that they did not act like those lines weren't said, because.
Well, yeah, Buzz, they definitely, I thought, made dumber. It was too dumb. And I'd say that was the biggest flaw in that movie was Buzz. He was just kind of stupid in a couple of times in that movie.
Buzz was my one, actually, I would say my absolute favorite character in Toy Story 2, and was definitely a hit in Toy Story 3, even though a good portion of that movie, he was either psycho Nazi Buzz or philandering ladies man Buzz.
Spanish Buzz, yes.
Even though, in spite of those, he was still like my favorite character in Toy Story 3. But in Toy Story 4, his confidence and competence is no longer there, really. He goes relying on his own voice box. And Mahler made the point, too, that back in Toy Story 1, he had played his own sound box. And he came, like at the one point that he was about to come to the realization, oh, I'm just a toy. He goes playing that sound box and goes realizing, oh yeah, I am just a toy. But all of a sudden in Toy Story 4, he goes to take advice from that arbitrary piece of equipment that's in him. It's stupid.
Yeah, it was kind of stupid.
That random, very random piece of equipment.
I'd say that was the biggest flaw in that movie. I liked Woody's arc, but Buzz's kind of was annoying for that reason.
You know what I think? You know the Duck and Bunny character in Toy Story 4?
The Key and Peele characters.
Right. When I go look at those two characters, I go thinking to myself, this is what Michael Bay wished the RC twins could have been.
Yeah.
Like literally, I saw a whole lot of, obviously, I don't know. I would have to, I'm just going to shut up right there because otherwise I don't have an explanation that quite hits the mark. But anyway. I mean, what about the side characters? Do you not wish that they would have had the older side characters shine a little bit more in Toy Story 4?
I guess, but I don't know. It wasn't really their story.
I mean, maybe not, but really, if they wanted to have a strong female character be shining in Toy Story 4, instead of Bo Peep, I think they had a whole lot more potential to have Jessie be doing all that rough and tumble type stuff, because she was doing it somewhat in Toy Story 2 and 3, but wasn't like full. They did not like tap into the full potential of what she could do as a character. No, instead they brought back Bo Peep to do that in Toy Story 4.
Well, because it was meant to be a romance between her and Woody, and Jessie and Woody never really had a romantic relationship.
Right, they were more like almost brother and sister, it seems.
Right, yeah.
Which I'm not gonna lie, I like the idea that that Woody gave off his badge to Jessie. And that's one thing that I'm gonna be honest. There's a whole lot of things I disagree with Mahler and his crew in their criticisms of Toy Story 4. But then again, another good portion of it that I do agree with it. Excuse me.
I mean, if you don't like it, that's fine. I thought it was overall pretty good. I enjoyed it. Honestly, very rarely, even Cars 2, I find some mild redeemable qualities, even though it's by far Pixar's worst movie. Generally, I just love Pixar's movies.
All right.
That's just,
I mean,
I've been a fan of them for 25 years now.
I guess it really is hard to hate them, especially with the modern day animation that they have, because you go watching them and you have such a happy, bright, uplifting sort of feel when you go watching them. Right,
and they create original stories, and I know they've made a few kind of lackluster sequels, but more often they really seem to experiment in new storytelling, whereas their parent company Disney, they're farting out these god awful live action remakes of their old animated titles, and they're unoriginal and they're shit. They're absolute garbage.
Which is one of the great things that I really loved about Onward, is because it was a fresh new. It
was a fresh new movie. Where, I mean, the remakes of The Lion King, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, they're all crap.
As far as like Pixar movies go, I thought that Finding Dory, that Dory made a better protagonist than Mater did in Cars 2.
Oh, definitely. I kind of like the film in terms of the way it deals with mental disabilities.
Right, which is probably the two reasons as to why that I can't hate Finding Dory. Plus, I really like the Septipus character. He was kind of a badass in his own sort of.
Voiced by fucking way. Al Bundy, or Ed O'Neill. Al Bundy himself voices that character. A fat woman came into my shoe store today.
But in my opinion, I thought that the whole whale talk got too obnoxious throughout that movie.
Maybe a little bit.
Like in the first Finding Nemo, it was funny for a time of when that Marlin and Dory, they were trying to do long distance communication with the whale. But now in Finding Dory, you know that one thing that was a big hit in Finding Nemo? You know what we need? Even more of it. and it to be done faster in the sequel. That'll make it better, right? Right?
Yeah. Wrong. But you can't go wrong casting Al Bundy in a Pixar movie.
Is that? Oh no, never mind. I'm thinking Bud Lucky.
Hank the Septipus is voiced by Al Bundy. The I don't know.
Al Bundy. Let me search him up because I
Married with Children, man.
What?
Married with Children. It was like the best show from the 90s, man.
I've never seen that show.
Ah! You go and watch all 250-something episodes of that show, and then you get back to me right now.
Married with Children.
Yeah! It's a classic, dude.
Okay.
Al was just like the best. He would always be like incredibly... He worked in a woman's shoe store, and he would always blatantly insult fat women who would come into his shoe store. It was great. He had just always the best one-liners. Like one lady's like, is sitting in the chair. Listen, mister, I am not getting out of this chair until you serve me some shoes. And he says, so because you're angry at me, you're going to take it out on a perfectly innocent chair.
that is pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, one lady's like, come on, let's go somewhere where they treat us with respect. And he says, well, try the moon. You'll weigh less there.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's
so many episodes. Right? He just had all these zingers all the time. It was fucking amazing. He just didn't give a fuck.
Have you seen A Last Man Standing?
No.
Okay, I was about to ask you to do like a comparison between those two, but never mind. I don't know. Since we're kind of stretching out this live stream kind of thin on content and stuff to talk about, what else do you think there is to say about Onward?
Great movie. Everyone should go see it. Good loving celebration to traditional families. A genuine emotional journey. A movie that feels like a real personal story. And I rated it the best animated movie I've seen since Coco, which also is a great movie for many of the same reasons.
Call it the best animated movie of 2020?
Yeah, but Pixar has another movie out before year's end, but they're releasing it direct to Disney Plus called Soul.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering about
that. That was directed by Pete Docter, the director of Up and Inside Out, so Onward might have a run for its money. Because
all right.
Up and Inside Out are both even superior to Onward. Up is somewhere in my top 10 favorite movies, period. I love that movie.
I don't know. I guess this is purely just my opinion, which you might, objectively speaking, you might be right. And Up and Inside Out being better than Onward. But I think the thing that makes me like Onward a little bit better than those two movies is primarily because it's a little bit more out there with the world, you know. You have it set in this sort of Narnia-esque kind of fantasy land, you know, with a mixture of modern technology to boot.
Yeah.
Whereas those were like mostly just set in a modern setting. They were a little bit more plain in that sort of way.
Go. Thanks for the adventure. Now go have one of your own.
That was from Up, right?
That's one of the best scenes ever. That is just an amazing movie.
Oh yeah, you talking about like the opening scene of where that his wife dies, right?
No, I was talking about later in the movie when he finds that that journal of hers. That's just one of the best scenes ever.
Oh,
the musical score, everything just sells that. The fact that that whole opening done with no dialogue was just incredible, and I love the way it like perfectly nailed the personality of a dog with the whole the way the talking dogs are in that movie.
Right.
I have just met you and I love you.
Okay. The thanks for the amazing adventure line. That happens when he finally lands his house where his wife wanted it to be put
Falls,
at.
yeah.
When he like is pissed off at Russell for a while.
He wasn't really pissed off at Russell. Russell was pissed at him because he was so singularly focused on what he was trying to accomplish that he was ignoring more important things.
Well, oh, okay.
Kevin, the female bird.
Right. But that I remember Russell getting mad at dang it, what's Mr. Whitmer? Is that his name?
Fredrickson.
Dang it. Why did I say Whitmer? Mr. Fredrickson. Mr. Frederick, but Russell getting mad at Mr. Fredrickson, that was after Russell was first, Russell getting mad at Fredrickson, that was after Fredrickson originally got mad at Russell a little bit earlier.
Another thing, the character of Russell also was great because he feels like a genuine kid. His personality, his mannerisms, all of them feel like this is like something that should come from the mouth of a child, of like an 8-year-old kid.
And to boot, he also has a little bit of a family struggle going on.
Yeah, family struggle in the background, and I love how Carl, the end, kind of almost becomes a surrogate dad to this kid. It was just a great moment, him giving the kid the LE badge.
Right.
Because Carl, of course, he was never able to have a son. If you remember, there was a scene where his wife miscarries early in the movie, where he dreamed
it was a miscarriage? For some reason, I thought she was just barren.
Oh, no, it's clearly a miscarriage because you see them like decorating the room for a baby and with a cradle and everything. They went out there, had to buy all that. She must have been pregnant. So, and then you see her at the doctor's office, her crying. Her finding out her baby died.
Yeah, I guess that's where I should have caught the implication. But right. I really like as to how subtle they were in mentioning that Russell, his mom was divorced and is getting someone else. Like he doesn't even explicitly say it in those words. He just goes saying, what's the stepdad's name or the coming stepdad's name?
The stepmom's name. She says Phyllis isn't my mom.
Oh yeah, Phyllis. That was the name. Phyllis says that I should not talk to him very much, referring to his
also
dad.
kind
you
of
referred to your mom by her first name. Phyllis is not my mom. Oh, and
you also saw he was so desperate to get all those merit badges because he thought if he got them all, his dad would spend more time with him, which obviously was ridiculous. It wouldn't have made any difference, but in his childish mind, that's what he believed. That's why he was so determined.
What did he explicitly say that, or is that a theory that you came up with?
It's implied.
Okay.
Well, you saw that you saw that was one of the reasons. I think he does mention that actually that he that he was wanting his dad to show up, but at the very end, you see him at the ceremony, and his dad isn't there. Or Carl shows up in his dad's place.
I see.
Gives him the alley badge.
I mean, I will say that is the most warming thing about the movie is the relationship between Mr. Fredrickson and Russell, and where that Mr. Fredrickson originally was this old grouch, but then sort of warms up to Russell all the way to the point of where that he becomes sort of, well, like you said, a surrogate dad to the guy.
Yeah, and again, the dogs were great. I love the things they say. Squirrel.
And Inside Out,
they did this great joke where they set out a real golden retriever with like a collar to simulate talking like Doug, and I love it when he goes up to this kid the dog walks up to this kid and wearing a red shirt, and the dog kind of pretendingly speaks. That's a nice gray shirt you have there. because dogs are colorblind. There's another joke they did at the end when they're like, when they're spotting cars, red one, and Doug says, gray one. They're all gray to him because he's colorblind.
You know, the other movie that you mentioned, Inside Out. The best thing that I like about that movie is how it, like, within its whole world of analogies of the mind, you know, these little different color orbs that mention different types of emotions, and how they basically use it as an analogy the whole thing as an analogy at one point in the movie to say that some of the sad moments can kind of filter out into some of the happiest moments of your life. Like,
yeah, the importance
that sort of bittersweet moment of your life.
Yeah, the importance of sadness. That was a big thing. I think Honest Trailers did the best joke about Inside Out. A movie set in the mind of a young girl. It couldn't have been set in the mind of a grown man, or it would have been a porno. Yeah, if it had been set in the mind of an adult man, the movie would have been a porno.
Oh, oh, boobs. My mind is on boobs.
Yes. Yeah, but the control station.
No. I gotta say it in the name of the announcers, or in the accent of the announcer. Boobs. Boobs.
Right. There's implying like there was one joke I loved towards the end of the movie when Riley bumps into this boy, and then it goes into his head, and they're all running around panicked. Girl, and there's like a red light. They're all running around. That was funny as hell.
Boys get girl crazy.
Girl. Oh, they're all. Ah!
Yeah, that was funny.
That was very funny. That whole movie. Yeah, it's funny, it's clever, it's touching. Inside Out is a fantastic movie.
Yeah, I ought to get that on DVD sometime when I get an opportunity.
DVD is old hat, dog. Ultra HD Blu-ray or Blu-ray 3D.
Wait a minute. DVDs are all out? Is that what you said?
Those are. It's an obsolete format, dude.
Okay. Because I know that I got a whole lot of DVDs myself. As long as they're still playable on a Blu-ray player.
They are, but you won't get the same quality.
But just in general, I ought to get like a physical copy of Inside Out,
right?
And Up, for that matter. Some of the greater Pixar movies, and show those to my kids in all eventuality when and if I get some, you know.
Back in a minute.
Okay. No one else here. So I Googled up on I searched up on Google here the different types of Christmas Carol movies. Oh, excuse me. All different types of Christmas Carol movies, and I'm just getting a whole bunch of different types of random Christmas movies like Noel, Last Christmas, Christmas Chronicles, Klaus. All of those are obviously not Christmas Carol movies based off of Charles Dickens. Although there's a Wikipedia page here, adaptations of A Christmas Carol. So, theater, 1964 through 1999. Throughout the late 19th century and into the early years of the 20th, British actor Seymour Hicks toured England with his own non-musical adaptation of the story in which he played Scrooge. A Christmas Carol, 1964 to present, an original musical stage adaptation written and directed by Tim. Okay, I'm just going to skip that one. A Christmas Carol, 1972, 1974, and 1978, and an adaptation by Keith Fowler in story theater style was presented in Richmond, Virginia. This version premiered in 1972. Well, okay, this is theater. Should go down to movies. Film. Okay. Woo, 1901, Scrooge or Marley's Ghost. 1901, a short British film that is the earliest surviving screen adaptation. Damn. That is old.
What's that?
1901, Scrooge or Marley's Ghost.
Yeah, that's Christmas Carol's the books from the 1830s, dude.
Well, no, I mean, I had a feeling that Christmas Carol was definitely an 1800s written book, but I did not know that movies, that moving pictures, movies, that they went all the way back to 1901.
Really? I thought the first movie adaptation was in the 30s.
Well, okay, I was talking movies in general, but yeah, Christmas Carol specifically. Scrooge or Marley's Ghost, 1901, a short British film that is the earliest surviving screen adaptation.
Oh, it must have been like a short film, not a full-length movie.
Right.
Motion film was a brand new technology at the time. They really didn't know how to use it.
I'll look through this list a little bit.
I think like it was first done in the late 1800s. They just kind of took the principle of having a photograph, but photographing something several times a second to give it the illusion that it moves. Kind of a simple principle.
The Muppet Christmas Carol, 1992. Musical film featuring the Muppets with Michael Caine as Scrooge.
Oh, I'll always love that movie.
Michael Caine. I cannot imagine Michael Caine playing as anything more other than Uncle Hub and Alfred.
Michael Caine is a fantastic actor. Even in a bad movie, he's a fantastic actor. Like he's in this one from the early 90s called On Deadly Ground. It is one of the all-time worst movies ever made, but Michael Caine still delivers a great performance in it. A greater performance as he could in that dreck of a movie. But supposedly afterwards, he fired his agent, and he only took that role because he was not getting any offers for a while, and he was worried if he didn't have a screen presence that it would be the end of his career. So he was willing to take whatever was offered to him. So he took when they offered him On Deadly Ground, he took it. But he fully admits that it's an absolute dreck movie.
Right.
That one Steven Seagal starred in and directed. My God, is that movie stupid?
Did he play as the bad guy?
No, Steven Seagal is the hero of the movie, and
did Michael Caine play as the bad guy?
Oh yeah, Michael Caine played as the bad guy.
Oh, he did. I gotta see this just for that because I never seen Michael Caine take on a villainous role.
Like I said, he delivers a good performance, but for what he's offered. But I'm still like, what the fuck are you doing in this movie? I mean, you're in one of the worst movies of all time because the movie itself is so bad.
Well, it's a Steven Seagal movie, so what do you expect?
But it's more than just it stars Steven Seagal. It's something that was something that he wrote and directed too. So it's all on him. Let me read out a line from this movie to give you perspective on how bad it is.
Oh boy.
My guy in DC tells me we're not dealing with a student here. We're dealing with the professor. Anytime the military has an operation that can't fail, they call this guy to train the troops. Okay? He's the kind of guy that would drink a gallon of gasoline so he could piss on your campfire. You could drop this guy off at the Arctic Circle wearing a pair of bikini underwear without his toothbrush, and tomorrow afternoon he's going to show up at your poolside with $1 million smile and a fistful of pesos. This guy's professional, you got me? If he reaches this rig, we're all going to be nothing but a big goddamn hole right now in the middle of Alaska. So let's go find him and kill him and get rid of this son of a bitch.
What the fuck?
That's a real line from that movie.
So much camp.
What the? Only Steven Seagal could have wrote a line like that.
Holy crap. Trying too hard. He's trying too hard. Yeah, you wanted to
come up with some dumb metaphors for just how awesome he is. I'm so fucking awesome. It's like he's jacking off on the fucking pages of his script. I swear to God.
He tried to pull a Major Troutman from Rambo First Blood right there.
Yeah,
Eat food to make a billy goat puke.
Yeah, but that line was actually cool. This is just
no. That's what I'm meaning. They tried to pull that amount of coolness from Troutman and infuse it in this, but it flopped. Yeah.
Oh God! This $1 million smile on a fistful of pigs.
Drink a gallon of gasoline just to piss on your fire.
Yes.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, that's from master writer Steven Seagal. Yeah, J.R. Tolkien and Frank Herbert, eat your heart out. Steven Seagal is a master screenwriter. Yes, I'm like Charles Dickens. You don't know shit. You can't compare.
Christopher Nolan, eat your heart out.
Right, man. Man, oh man. Yes, don't let Steven Seagal direct movies.
Hey, by the way, I gotta ask you, Loudmouth. Who would you say is like your number one favorite director?
It's a tough one. Generally, it's been Christopher Nolan, but I kind of thought Tenet was kind of lacking.
I mean, that's what I hear is that Tenet, okay, like the Critical Drinker, he posted a video saying Tenet is Christopher Nolan at his worst and his best. So, like, okay.
It just was really hard to it was really hard to follow, and it kind of didn't make much sense.
Like, everybody likes a Batman. Inception was a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Inventive masterpiece with its concept of how dreams are.
I loved Interstellar. I loved his Batman trilogy. Memento, great. Prestige, great. But I don't know. Tenet just didn't really work for me. Maybe a second viewing, I'll like it better. I don't know.
I have yet to see Dunkirk personally, but yeah, like you mentioned of Interstellar, I like the concept of its sci-fi things, but I also was really invested into the father-daughter relationship that was playing out there.
I thought it really showed Einstein's theory of relativity and its and kind of the crazy effects that it would have on someone traveling close to a black hole better than any sci-fi movie ever has. It's actually true. According to modern physics, time is relative, and if you're near a black hole, time would actually move differently for you than for people outside. A few hours would pass for you, and years would pass outside. That is actually accurate how it would work being near a black hole.
Yeah.
The gravitational force of the black hole is so strong it bends time.
Like, I really have to say that honestly, Christopher Nolan is probably one of the more objectively better actors of Hollywood. James Cameron, he has sort of a good rating with his movies, but at the same time, Avatar was kind of a mixed bag, really, at best. And not to mention he directed Terminator: Dark Fate.
Well, he didn't direct Dark Fate. He was a producer of it, though.
Okay. Well, he helped make that. Go on.
The original Terminator is one of my all-time favorite movies. I consider that an absolute sci-fi masterpiece.
Yeah. Like, I would go ahead and say that James Cameron is like the king of sequels because he directed Aliens and, of course, Terminator Salvation, which are like
Terminator 2.
What? Terminator 2. Why did I say Salvation? My bad.
Terminator 2 Judgment Day, yeah. And Aliens also is one of the best monster movies ever made.
Yeah, I really like the shit out of Aliens. And to be quite honest, I did not mind. I actually kind of like Terminator Salvation. Me personally, anyways.
I didn't think it was that bad. I definitely thought it was flawed, but it wasn't terrible. I would have greatly preferred if they'd just done a sequel to it than whatever the fuck Jenna shit was. You saw my review of Terminator Genesis, right?
Genesis. Oh yeah, right. If they instead of trying to drag it out, is if they just made it all in the future setting and had it destroying Skynet, and that be the end of the entire franchise.
Yeah, I'm very proud of the spoof I did at the beginning of that video. I kind of took the opening narration of the original movie. The machines rose from the ashes of the nuclear fire.
Right.
And I just modified that. Terminator Genesis rose from the ashes of Hollywood's artistic bankruptcy. Their 20-year war to destroy the Terminator franchise waged for decades, but the final revelation would not be fought in the movie theaters. It would be fought here, now, on YouTube, tonight.
But yeah, what was I saying about James Cameron is that those two are like pinnacle or staple examples when it comes to good sequels. Like generally, sequels, the general consensus is anyways that the sequels are not as good as the predecessors of the sequels. But Aliens and Terminator 2 are the exceptions to the rule, and they were both directed by James Cameron. I would go ahead and give the crown to him being the king of sequels, except for the fact that he recommended Terminator Genesis to people, that they go and watch it. And not to mention he had a hand in making Terminator Dark Fate, which are considered some of the worst sequels of all Hollywood.
Dark Fate.
What?
I still haven't even seen it. What I've heard about it in the trailers, it didn't even seem worth a watch.
Neither to me. I mean, I just listened to Critical Drinker's review of it, and I was like, okay, that's good enough.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I obviously did see Genesis, but it starts off okay, and then it gets really stupid towards the end. God damn.
Yeah. So when it comes to directors, really, Peter Jackson, I wish that I could consider him to be my all-time favorite director, because Lord of the Rings is what I would almost consider to be a perfect trilogy. Not the Hobbit trilogy, including in that, because Hobbit trilogy overall is crap, especially the third one. But the original
I like the
Lord
Hobbit trilogy. They're not as good as the Lord of the Rings movies, obviously, but I still think they're solid fantasy movies.
I like the first and second Hobbit, but the third one, there's only one redeeming quality I can think of it, and that is the fight scene between Elrond and Saruman versus the Nazgul ghosts. That's it. Aside from that, I didn't like it. But
I liked on his trailers referring to it as the Hobbit, the bloating of the 5 pages.
Right.
Yeah, it took like 5 pages of the book and made like an hour plus action sequence out of it. Yeah, because in the book, all right, there's like a battle that's about to start, and then Bilbo gets knocked out at the beginning of the battle, and then he just wakes up after it's over. It's barely described at all.
Well, I can't understand as to how that would be kind of anticlimactic towards
right.
the battle scene and whatnot.
Well, he just took that little bit of text and he just bloated it into a massive action sequence.
But of course, not all of it is on Peter Jackson. Is Peter Jackson's fault, and I'm not that big a fan of Peter Jackson's King Kong, to be quite honest. I don't hate it. It's just too slow for me to like truly like it. And I have not seen Mortal Engines yet, but from what I consistently hear, it's kind of lackluster.
Yeah, it kind of is.
So I cannot.
It has a cool concept, but some of the acting of some of the younger leads is outright atrocious at times.
So because of taking all those things into consideration, I cannot like outright say that Peter Jackson is my number one favorite director.
No.
Although Lord of the Rings is still pretty good. George Lucas.
Maybe Pete Docter.
What?
Maybe Pete Docter, the guy who made Up and Inside Out. Yeah.
All right.
He could be up there. We'll see how good Soul is.
Right. Grant you.
And he also made Monsters Incorporated. And I still have Monsters Incorporated.
And then there's Christopher Nolan.
There's one scene, the scene at the end, with Randall's comeuppance. No matter how many times I watch that movie, I always laugh when they throw him in that door and it ends up in this shed. One of them says, "Look, Ma, another gator in the house. Another gator. Give me that shovel." Then she just starts whacking Randall over the head with it. Get that gator.
There's a couple of
watch that movie. That scene is still hilarious.
Couple of Cajun land rednecks coming across this lizard guy.
Yes, another gator in the house. Give me that shovel.
Oh, we're eating our gumbo good tonight.
That scene is fucking hilarious. God damn it.
Like this, I can only imagine Randall. I can only imagine Randall being skinned to be made into belts.
Yeah.
And the rest of him being eaten up like gator gumbo.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a weird looking gator. It's got like 6 legs, mama. Yeah. Guess they must be dumping weird shit in that swamp, huh?
Precisely. But hey, Loudmouth, we did just pass the 2-hour mark. I think I'm going to end it right here so I can at least watch one episode.
Good chatting with you again.
Yep, it has been fun. And to all of you who, there's only me that is watching the browser for this stream right now. But to anyone who watches this in the future, definitely go watch Onward. If you're looking for something in our modern day world of Hollywood and cinema, this is a very fresh breath of air. Onward is. And we'll see how Soul is. And thank you all for joining. And I definitely thank you, Loudmouth, for joining on. It was a pleasure. It's been a while.
No problem, dude. Always good chatting with you.
Good night. God bless. And y'all have a good rest of your weekend.
All right. Bye-bye.